Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tactical Reserves. I'm Brinks,
I'm Zach.
I'm Troy. And I'm Amble.
and this week we are going to be discussing the new Custodes rules, the Death Guard rules, and Ninth Edition. We're all pretty excited, and we've kind of we've been sitting here for 20 minutes already discussing them, just trying to not talk about them, just to start the intro. So if that tells you how excited we are for this, but yeah. So first thing I want to talk about though is this week in hobbying. We're going to change up the order a little bit this time, and we'll go ahead and start with Anvil. So this week in hobbying, what have you been up to, Anvil?
So I've been 3D printing some more terrain, basically working on L's for our terrain. Some gothic looking L's that we can use for blocking line of sight. I've got them printed and glued together, and we're going to have to start working on painting some terrain before too long.
Awesome. How about you, Troy?
I've been working on the skull cannons, working on getting that color scheme going for them. Got one, it's probably about 60% done. And then I also been working on my Talos, just touching them up. They have basically done. They just have a lot of little details I got to get done. I put them together first, so they're kind of a pain in the butt to paint.
Yeah, I can see that. How about you, Zach?
I finished it, Tell 'em on Dread finally, and started on my Shield Captains on Bikes. New Custodes books got me painting a lot of Custodes stuff.
That's awesome. I have been working on Tomb Blades still. If y'all want to check it out too, I stream on Twitch, so twitch.tv/BR1NXL. We do every Monday night, hobby night, and usually some of the guys are in chat if you want to talk to them, and I would love to talk Ninth Edition with you. But yeah, pretty much Tomb Blades. I would like to have all of my current army painted by the time I get to the new stuff. So that's my plan. Hurry up and rust all my Necrons as fast as possible. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm loving hobbying. Been really getting back into it with this Ninth Edition stuff. And I think the next thing we're going to go ahead and talk about, though, is the Demons and Custodes. Well, the Death Guard and Custodes stuff. So which one do you guys want to talk about first, though?
We can talk about Custodes, that's fine.
Okay, well, let's do that. I know Zach and I at work have talked quite a bit about the potential of Custodes doing some like crazy, silly stuff, but I'm gonna let Zach kind of give us the intro to these topics, and we'll kind of go off of what he says and discuss it that way.
Okay, well, the biggest, silliest thing that I found you can do in the book is you can take one of the shield hosts called the Aquilin Shield, and they have a stratagem to where you can bodyguard any Imperium character. So, trying to break it, you turn your Castellan Knight into an Imperium character, and then you can bodyguard them for 1 CP with your Custodes unit. Just for 1 unit though, so it'd really be good versus like a Baneblade versus a Castellan or something to that. Because if they kill the Custodes unit, all the rest of the attacks disappear. So
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Just getting to negate the entire attack phase of a large model like that. And I think Anvo would agree that we could definitely use some more Castellan protection.
Well, in reality, you wouldn't gain that much. You mean you're basically getting free wounds, but Castellans in shooting at least are going to have a 4-up. No one's going to take anything in Imperial Knights, I think, except for the Iron Bulwark warlord ability, because it just gives it a 4-up and vulnerable at shooting.
Yeah.
Like, so this is just what you're going to take. So that way you don't have to rotate ion shields, because rotating ion shields is 3 CP on it. And they cap at 4 now, so you just take the Iron Bulwark and just call it a day. And so it would be, now, does it work in melee?
I'll have to look that up.
So if it does, then being the bodyguard would be...
Yes, it says it's a target of an attack.
So yeah, so that's where you would really make some hay, because you'd be able to shield it during melee. Because other than that, the only way to give a knight an invulnerable in melee is to take the relic that gives it a 5-up invulnerable all the time.
Yeah.
And then you can rotate in combat, but once again on a Castellan is 3 CP. It's just not...
It's a lot of CP to spend. I get that.
It's a lot of CP to spend. So that there is where you could really make some hay on that. You could basically set up a squad to defend your Castellan against charging units that are gonna, like the Demon Prince with a can opener or a Blood Angel Slam Captain. The things that are really gonna put work on in it. They could really defend well against that.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about stuff within the Custodes Codex? What within there would you really want to protect, like as far as dreadnoughts or something like that? Is there like a high value target within the Codex? Just for the sake of not having to take multiple different detachments given the 9th edition, rules.
It only works with characters, so
Oh
kind of
yeah.
limited on what you can do.
Yeah, you're a lot more limited there.
And their characters are pretty much as buff as their bodyguard guys.
Yeah.
So it's really feels like it's built to protect soup.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
that's kind of what Custodes do.
Yeah, their flag guys do that too, right?
Yeah.
Some of them they give everybody in the
so
Yes.
so it sounds like, yeah, I guess.
I mean, I don't know if it's super competitive, but it seems super cheesy to me.
Definitely an interesting strategy. You could not take all the guard and try and scream out and just take the bodyguards, try and protect the Castellan, and then you could have a different kind of army to go around it.
Right.
More, maybe not melee intensive, but you definitely see not needing 90 guardsmen or whatever to protect it and just take some Marines. Better now anyway.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Well, being able to protect it in melee is pretty good. And I mean, with the Castellan, your complaint with the Castellan is how many points it is and how hard it is to get him back. I mean, you're guaranteed pretty much going to buy the Castellan an additional turn off of Custodes Guard.
Yeah, the issue is they raised the points so much and then also killed its survivability by capping it at 4 up. So anything that can really shoot and hurt a Castellan will shoot and kill a Castellan, and they made it 100 points more expensive.
Well, so this stratagem specifically is going to negate that, though. So
It basically just gives it free wounds. Yeah,
which is what all it needs, because its shooting is not in question. Like, Castellan is still by far one of the most efficient murder machines in the game when it comes to deleting whatever it points at.
Yeah.
You put a squad of Custodian Guard, a 3-man squad with a Storm Shield that's 150 points. You paid 150 points to give him 9 wounds worth of 3-up and vulnerable.
Like Zach said, it completely negates the platform. So
Even if it
and most
splashes
people
over it, it's
don't
done.
bring enough, don't bring more than 2 or 3 platforms to fire at night.
but
So completely negating.
The big thing is
you're 900 points into one model on a board that's when you're playing a competitive game, ITC, it's all about collecting objectives and things like that.
Sure.
And especially in 9th edition, where we're talking more line of sight blocking, not being able to shoot into ruins and things like that. People will just be able to hide and collect points while, like what happened when I first started playing Imperial Knights. Everyone just ignored the Knights. Like what they killed, but they just racked up points while I had 4 models that killed things. I killed all kinds of stuff.
But you still got 1,000 points to build on. I mean, that's a lot of points, especially.
What I'm saying is there is the dichotomy of, you can put these Custodian Guard for 150 points, but he's already 750 points. So now you're talking your 900 points of your almost half of your 2,000 point army into this one weapon platform, which is great, but is it?
So maybe a Castellan's not the answer, but any Imperial Knight will fit the bill. The Castellan's just huge.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious that these 3 little bodyguards can jump in the way of anything shooting at a Castellan. That was mostly where I was at on it. There's some really good stratagems in Custodes too that I'd like to talk about too, instead of dwelling on a Castellan.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that. I will say, the last little bit on that is I really do like the character protection rule on there. I mean, hell, you could run it with like melee units, like the bikes.
Well, since we're going to talk about it, but they've changed the character targeting rules, right? So you have to think what character model has more than 9 wounds. So the one that you can't hide in infantry or near vehicles, would you want to protect? Because everything else you can just protect by parking them next to infantry or a rhino or
Bobby G.
He's got 9 wounds.
He's got 9 wounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much just for like knights, but I still think it would be really good to do it to like a gallant and run bikes and a gallant up the field, because like you're gonna have a bad time if that thing just starts touching stuff. you know, and that's not a big point investment. And you have bikes, and bikes are insane. So, as far as that list goes, I mean, you could take triple gallant and a unit of bikes, and you're probably what 1,300 points in. You still have 700 points to build with.
How much the squad of bikes?
Squad of the Veritas Predators is 270 points for 3. They're 90 points a model.
So you're talking, you want to run probably 4 or 5.
Yeah, so about.
I think you're going to
1,300
run
points.
5 minimum from now on, because there's a stratagem for 1 CP. If the unit is 5 or less, and it goes up to 2 CP if it's more than 5. So until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon, the model and the unit, an unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically scores a successful wound. So you take 5 of your Predators, and they get 12 shots apiece in rapid fire, so that's 60 shots. Just on average, you're going to get 10 wounds in on a T8 just from 1 CP.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
So that
That's
seems
really good.
really powerful to me.
Yeah, a punch knight, well equipped, with like a rocket pod, is about 400 points, 417 points. So you can obviously make it a little cheaper if you take the rocket pod.
Yeah, I
off.
don't think you run rocket pods on gallants.
He's talking bare bones up
I'm
the
talking
field.
gallants. I'm
I don't want
talking.
to hit you with my sword.
You're gonna
and
punch
these
shit.
bikes are gonna protect.
Especially with that rule, like you're gonna run up, you're gonna punch or stomp something, and you're going to rapid fire.
Yeah, you got 60
can
bolter
clear
shots to
out a lot.
clear.
They're 372 points.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you're talking, 1,100-ish, 1,200 points for three.
It's a
three punch
super
knights.
elite army is what you would be building.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm not entirely sure that the Aquilon Shield's where you want to be anyway, but I just thought it was cool.
Definitely a cool idea.
Yeah.
It might even
has
be something
potential.
you would try in like a bigger game. You can just afford.
Oh
all
yeah,
that stuff.
in a big game,
Yeah.
that seems absurd. Honestly, just to if somebody brings like some crazy Forge World firepower.
Yeah. I do want to mention I like what they've been doing lately with the stratagems where they've been making them more modular. Like they're a lot harder to abuse because like that one is 2 CP if you have more than 5 bikes.
Right.
We've seen that in the last few psychic lightnings. They're kind of protecting themselves down the road where people could easily abuse these if they were like 1 CP or like 3. Like it's a smart idea on their part. That They
Yeah.
didn't used to do.
Yeah, I think they've
least as
learned.
much.
They made some stratagems that were like, oh well, there's no way people are going to like. They've got these three models, and they're going to use this one stratagem, and then people are like, oh well, if I make a squad of 6, this is busted. So they're like, oh well, so they've kind of built themselves some rails to kind of contain that in the latest iterations.
And Custodes, or bikes in general, they're considered bikers, right?
They're not vehicles, they're just bikers.
Bikers.
It's its own category.
So there's another CP here. It's basically the one for Marines where you can't wound on 1s, 2s, or 3s. They automatically fail. And it's 2 CP in the Custodes one, but it says non-vehicle. So you could use it on your bikes. Your big squad of bikes could only be wounded on 4s, but they're 4 up invulnerable and they're 2 up save. It seems so they can make them a lot more survivable too. So there's some neat stuff in
So it works on everything except for their tanks. And
I
the
think
dreadnoughts.
in their planes.
Yeah,
I think
I
they're worried about.
Yeah.
Which the planes are really good right now. We've seen the tanks be good in the past, so can't give it to those.
Custodes bikes were already like on the their captains, shield captains on jet bikes were already obviously really solid, and the regular bikers were like just on the fringe of being like pretty damn good. So
I think they were always good.
The cost holds them back.
There was a little bit of cost, but there was no army that they kind of slotted into that fit what people wanted them to do. So like, I played 3 captains in the guard list. The guard Castellan.
yeah,
Some people played slam captains. I played with shield captains, but there was really no army that you could be like, oh well, I'm going to take this big detachment of Custodes, and then I'm going to do, what you were going to soup them with, like Space Marines. Like most of the time, you could find that kind of usefulness in Space Marines or another army that was a little cheaper, maybe not quite as good, but it was a little cheaper, and you didn't have to mix the attachments and finagle your list to make it work.
yeah,
So that's why Custodes really popped off when they changed the rules on the tank, the grav tank, because everybody was like, oh, well now you got something to pair with bikes and Custodes units, and I can do some work. So that's when Custodes really kind of took off, when they had some. They didn't have to find another army.
They're definitely a supplemental army. I don't think you're going to play mono Custodes very often. Like, unless you're just trying to be the guy that plays mono Custodes. Like, they're definitely a soup army.
That's kind of how they are. They're like the bodyguards of the Imperium or whatever. They're not.
Yeah, they show up when it's
hit
business
the field
time.
as a giant army. They're elite. That's how they're designed.
Yep, they're just too expensive to be running individually.
So I heard you talk a lot this week about the one of the, what are they? The dreadnoughts. Which one is that you're kind of excited about?
The Telemann dreadnoughts are. I've always liked those. They're huge models. They're big. They're taller than Leviathans. They're very cool. But there's a 1 CP stratagem at the beginning of the game to let them reroll charges and gives them an additional attack.
The whole game?
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yep. So that seems really promising, and you can, because they're Custodes, you can do the golden with light with they come or whatever, and pay a CP to deep strike anything in their army. So you can come out of deep strike, shoot your guns, and reroll your 9-inch charge, hopefully.
Now, the charge on your turn, charge on their turn stratagem from Custodes, is that?
It only works with bikes, right?
I think that's just bikes.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if it was.
It only works with
it only
bikes.
works with bikes. That's why I was like, man, if the dreadnoughts could just.
But there's this stratagem for 1 CP where they get to heroically you can make any of your units heroically intervene. So I'm not entirely sure that works on the dreadnought, but if it does, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it says any of your units.
Well, is he not a character?
He's not.
No.
They don't have a way to make a dreadnought a character, which is kind of sad.
Most people don't.
Yeah, that would be crazy. But I know you were talking about that, and with them being able, I know there was the discussion of, do I take the 1 extra attack or do I throw a gun on him? Because now you can shoot even if you're in melee. And I think throwing the gun on him and just having like this absurd attack, like it's just like nobody's going to want to touch it or be within sight of it just because it's going to be bringing the pain.
I like the versatility of having a gun on it.
Right. The Tool Fist looks really cool, but I don't know if Two Fist is really worth 1 extra attack. I really hope they change that rule in general for most of these things. Like,
You give up a lot to take 2 melee weapons on a dreadnought. I think it should get more than 1 attack. I agree.
Yeah, like it's not just Custodes in particular, but lots of dreadnoughts have that where they get 1 attack for going all melee. It doesn't seem beneficial.
Well, because they're still generally immobile.
Yeah, they're still really slow.
They're slow.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you give them 2 fists or whatever, and
They look
you get an
cool,
extra attack,
but-
and they look cool, but they're still only moving 8 inches at a time, slogging across the board, getting shot at, because you don't want to get punched by a dreadnought. You're like, I'm going to shoot that thing before it gets to me. So maybe, they should have considered, like, hey, if you're going to make this thing a melee loadout, it'll get 2 extra inches of movement.
Yeah.
Or auto advance, or, something that you could.
Advance and charge would be a little too good.
That'd be a little.
No, but yeah,
But that'd be cool.
To say, like, if you want to advance this, you get max 6-inch advance, so you can move it 14 inches the first time.
Well, I think stuff like that, like they should just, in my opinion, on super elite units like dreadnoughts, why not just give them a certain point option that would allow them an extra 2 inches on their charge, so that if you take it all melee, it's cheaper to kit out, but it gets like rocket boosters or something that you can
kind
purchase.
of like the grav.
Yeah, it's kind of like the reverse version of the grav tanks, where they lose 2 inches, but you gain.
There was the dreadnoughts that have the grav.
The magnets.
The magnet thing. That's a blood angel thing, right?
I think that's just a dreadnought.
That's an awesome. I want to get close to this vehicle, so I activate these magnets and I just come in.
Yeah, something like that. Like if you're an all dreadnought, like you're already streamlined compared to running around with guns. Like that thing's made for speed essentially. Give it like an extra inch of movement and 2 inches to its charge, because you would be running across the battlefield with a 300-point model, you know, and that's bad. It's not like it's absurdly. It's a T8 though, right?
It is T8, 14 wounds, and I think it's like 260.
So it's a little bit of a thick boy, but regular dreadnoughts definitely don't get that.
One thing to think about with the Custode Dreadnought, being able to deep strike it is huge, especially what we've seen in 9th edition. They talk about you're going to be able to deep strike in your deployment zone into within an inch.
Yes, I love that.
So that's a huge counter, because you're probably going to want to deep strike this guy anyway, just so he doesn't get shot. You're going second. And then if they do come in, or even you don't need them on the first turn, suddenly you've got this huge bodyguard that they can't challenge.
Right.
He's just gonna. They don't even have to like if you're banking on Overwatch supposedly or whatever.
Yeah,
It's just gonna
Overwatch
be
isn't really
in
a
there,
thing
yeah.
anymore. So
Right,
Well,
but even
To be discussed later.
like say it wasn't night, or whatever. It's like you don't have to worry about it. You're just in there.
Yeah.
And then like you don't need that. You can put them on the board somewhere later, second turn.
yeah.
Well, and well, that's off topic. I don't want to tangent that far, but I do think I actually so I've been listening to a lot of information and reading what I could on the Custodes, and I mean I feel like they have potential, assuming they don't get annihilated on points increases. They do have potential to be a monofaction army because a lot of their stratagems or they have a lot of stratagems now, and that 12 CP could be absolutely insane in that army.
Well, like Zach's saying with the bikes, you got the counter. You can charge on their turn.
Yeah.
So like your bikes can charge in, murder a unit, and then they move and they go to do something, and their charge phase, you're like, I'm going to charge something else.
Yeah.
And
You're
you're
pretty sure the
slingshot.
stratagem says they get a fight first too, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
and they're going to be more survivable.
Yes.
You know, AP is going to matter. Like, I love the stratagem. I wish I knew the names of the stratagems. We will get. Well, show notes are getting better, guys. You got to bear with us. But the stratagem that says AP1, AP2 doesn't matter at all.
That only works on the Terminators, though.
Oh, that's a Terminator one. Never mind.
Yeah,
Well,
that'd be a little good on bikes.
yeah. But the bikes are.
But that's
two up,
only
four up.
one CP, so that seems really good on a big old squad of Terminators.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
If you're trying to go mono Custodes, you don't have to worry about laying out your detachment as much because you're just gonna get 12 CP.
exactly. And my thing on the mono custodes with that is you can deep strike so much shit. Like, you're going to leave your bikes on the battlefield to start, right? But if you throw Terminators
I think.
and
I think
tanks,
the bikes are so mobile.
You don't want to get it like it's really easy to put them in deep strike and then not worry about losing 500 points.
But you're hiding the big stuff. You can just put the bikes in terrain. Like
Bikes are
behind.
really hard to hide.
You don't worry about holding objectives too. Hiding everything.
It depends on how the
Makes it
terrain
harder.
rules actually work out once we get a little bit firmer grasp. But like right now in 8th edition, they have the big silly spike or spears that point up in the air. It's like really hard to hide them anywhere.
They are not.
Or they point out to the side real far, and it's like, oh, I
Well,
can see the tip of your spear, so now I can shoot you.
I'm of the belief that, like, it's a huge model and you can see like just the tip of a spear, you really can't see it.
yeah.
But that's not the way the rules
Yeah.
are written.
Yeah,
Especially if you're in like a tournament, you need to worry about that.
Yeah, but I mean,
Also, these guys have a 2-up, 4-up. Like you might want them to shoot them.
Yeah.
I mean, everything
they're
in your
gonna-
army is going to have a 2-up,
That's true.
4-up. So
I just think the mobility of bikes on the field and then having like Terminators and Dreadnought type stuff in deep strike just to come in and be like, I mean, they're going to have a bad day when those units come out of deep strike. Like,
Because the outside of the bikes, the Custodes are actually really slow. Pretty much everything else in the army.
and one of the
So-
shield host things has a CP stratagem for when stuff comes in and out of deep strike. You can roll 3d6 and then discard the lowest for your units that came into the battlefield that turn. That seems super good.
yeah, that seems real
If
good.
you're going to be doing deep striking Telemans and Terminators.
I think if you're trying to go mono Custodes and you got the command points to play with, I think you definitely do a lot more deep striking because they need that mobility. Need to be able to hide their elite units sometimes.
Yeah.
We still have to wait and see what the ninth edition. They said a lot more stuff's going to be able to do the reserves or the deep strike or whatever. We'll have to see how that works.
It might limit how much you can put off the table more.
But
It
yeah,
might be more than just half.
yeah, I hope not. Half doesn't seem that broken, in my opinion. Half seems
Yeah,
fine.
like we still haven't seen all the rules. There might
That's
be
true.
some
That's true.
crazy stuff you can do.
well,
I think I've talked about all I want to talk about as far as Custodes go. I think we should probably move on to Death Guard.
Okay.
Ooh,
Now I'm more knowledgeable on Death Guard that was my first army. I don't play it anymore, but Troy does.
I do sometimes. Mostly, I just play more train. But I got some Plague Marines. I got some Tallyman stuff. I like them.
How do you feel about the new rules?
They're good. I haven't seen everything on the different sub factions yet, but they. I like that. That's a cool idea. It gives them a lot more depth. They're one of the smaller codexes that was all over the place in 9th edition because there was like 3 boxes with them.
Yeah.
They're a little overcosted. So the idea of them having different sub factions make them a little bit more mono playable. I like that. The stratagems are really powerful. They're a little specific, which they've done with a lot of the recent stratagems. They
Yes.
only work on specific, like we got stratagems for specific characters.
Yeah, I feel like that's just a necessity though, because when you have like the influx of players that GW has right now, there's just so many people trying to break everything that making stuff more narrow, because they can always make it more broad if it feels unplayable. But I like the idea of them starting narrow and making it, because then they're only buffing stratagems versus nerfing, and I think that's a much better feeling as far as your models go than getting them nerfed. Like, nobody wants their shit nerfed. Like, I'd rather something start bad and get better than start really good.
In the Death Guard book, it's not that bad. Like they got 20 something stratagems, so
Yeah.
they got a lot. And there's a few dedicated. Because the Demon one, it was pretty bad. Like every stratagem was specific to a unit. Like they are a little overlap because you can get them on the characters, but I didn't really like the way they did that.
Yeah. So I know that I am very excited about the Plague Burst Crawlers, because they've already been good, and now with the Entropy Cannon, I can't remember the name of the stratagem, but I believe it's 1 CP and it converts them to Plague Weapons.
Yeah.
Now, so you can run double Entropy Cannon on there instead of Plague Spitter, which the Plague Spitters have gotten infinitely better too.
It's true.
You
It's
know.
gonna be a debate now.
Okay.
Getting to use them in combat is what you're referring to.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm stoked for that.
Because they ignore the heavy rule. Well, everything does now. You can just move those things up the field. Don't have to worry about line of sight because they don't care, and just flamer everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm gonna have to look up some of these stratagems though.
The big one,
because there's
that
a couple
think's
I was excited for.
going to be abused and has a real good chance of being targeted for nerf or whatever, is the one to give any Death Guard unit that doesn't have Disgusting Resilient, you can give them Disgusting Resilient. Now, on paper in the Codex, that's not bad, a Predator or Land Raider or whatever, but what you're going to see is the Forge World stuff getting disgusting, and that's probably going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, this Virulent Rounds. Use a 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when a Plague Marines unit from your army is chosen to shoot with. Until end of phase, bolt weapons models that are in that unit are equipped with gain the following abilities. Plague Weapon, which we know is insane. When resolving an attack made with this weapon against an infantry unit on an unmodified wound roll of 6, the armor penetration characteristic of this model is -4 for that attack.
So you get rending bullets.
Yeah. And it just seems to me that for like 1 CP, it essentially, the way I see it is you're going to probably you're going to have to be running your Marines around in Rhinos or something, but they're going to pop out and they're just going to clear an objective.
Well, Death Guard Marines are hard to kill.
They are.
By normal stuff. Like T5, Disgusting Resilient, like they need to use high AP firepower to just wipe them out. So some people don't have that. Like for Repulsor, strength 5 on most of his guns. So they're wounded on 4s. You probably don't want like a huge squad of Marines, but like 7 to 10. A lot of people like take 7 because of Nurgle's number, you know.
Yeah.
And then that's a good unit to pop that on, and there's a really good chance you'll have.
See, I think I would be running it on units of 5 because they're so durable and because of the new blast rules. I think 5 is the number because you don't want to give the blast rules an automatic 3 as far as running 6 or more. So I think I'd rather run 2 units of 5 because the amount of firepower they have at 5 is pretty solid, and they are still pretty damn expensive.
They're still
The
expensive.
plague weapon thing lets them reroll.
Wound rolls of 1.
Yeah,
Just ones?
yeah.
But
So it's a lieutenant.
if you're correct, and Plague Burst Crawlers are good, and basically Death Guard's always backed by some hard hitting characters, whether it be Demon Princes or Mortarion, or or like Troy said, if they make Leviathan, Hellforged Leviathan Dreads be able to have a disgusting and resilient roll, then you're not really going to be firing blast weapons at Plague Marines.
I mean, you gotta fire them that way you can fire them.
I mean, true, but I'm just saying there's going to be other targets.
The nice thing about Plague Burst Crawlers is you can hide them.
Yeah.
That's
They
true.
are a big model, but there's enough line of sight block terrain, and they don't have to have line of sight.
Yeah.
So you can sit back
That
and make
could be
them come to you.
That could be a big deal in 9th edition for sure. It's already a big deal in 8th edition.
Well,
And
but
it
8th
doesn't-
edition is more built around troops. Troops were a big deal and everything. But if this is what we believe or what I believe is happening, and they're going to allow the ability to a lot of armies to get more elite, I don't think indirect fire is still okay. But if it's just, like mortar fire from guard and
Well, I
whatnot,
don't
it's
think
not.
mortars are particularly great.
I'm
but
pretty sure that
manticores,
Strength 8
basilisks,
Yeah, but, well, it's AP that's
plague
really
burst
the,
crawlers, thunderfire cannons, all that stuff's still going to be really, really good.
because you need troops to hold objectives.
Yep.
You come super elite and they've got plague burst crawlers or mortars or whatever, you can get blown out of
Just wait
your
to see
mobile
if the-
units quickly.
I want to see if the Wyvern gets the blast rule. The 46 shots could be.
Yeah, that's going to be insane if that
It
gets
seems
the
like it
blast rule.
should, because I mean, obviously it's a blast weapon, but it also seems really broken. I don't know about broken, but it seems really powerful.
Seems really good.
I can see both ways.
But I'm excited for what the Death Guard have to do. I think that a lot of their stratagems, I mean, we could spend 2 hours talking about the Death Guard stratagems and the Custodes stuff. The main thing is, though, I think they've become a lot more survivable and closer to monofaction. They have some pretty decent relics. I think my favorite one is the Ferryman's Scythe, which is from the Ferryman faction. But it's melee, strength +4, AP -3, flat 3 damage, plague weapon, and it inflicts a mortal wound on wound rolls of 6.
It's strong.
So you throw that on like a Demon Prince, and you're basically going to get in there and kind of put out a lot. Let's see here. Model equipped with a Plague Reaper only.
Yeah.
Oh, it replaces the Plague Reaper.
Yeah.
Damn
I do
it.
like-
So that's like Typhus, right? Doesn't Typhus
Well,
have a
you can't
Plague
get
Reaper?
Typhus a relic.
Blight Lord Terminators.
No, the one, it's the Lord of Contagion. And there's
Lord.
actually multiple, I think there's other units that can get the Plague Reaper. The Lord of Contagion is the one that come with it. And there's multiple there's just like 2 relics for him and a stratagem. I like that because this guy was in every box. Like every Death Guard thing had the guy, and he was really bad. So they've given him, there's a stratagem to basically turn him into a captain. And then there's like 2 relics for him. And I like that because everyone's got at least 2 of these guys around. Everyone likes to play them because he's, when you start out, you need characters. Like a lot of boxes come with like 1 or 2. You got to have him to play a battalion, but he's really bad. So I like that they buffed him.
Yeah, maybe he'll be viable. I don't know.
He's a little expensive.
I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm reading through all the stratagems, and a lot of stuff is just to increase their durability. I mean, they have some stuff for output, but I mean,
That's kind of the idea of the army.
yeah.
It seems like it's the idea of that book specifically. The Custodes got a lot more durable.
Yeah.
Death Guard got a lot more durable.
Facilities don't need more output. They have plenty of output.
Right.
And then Death Guard, I think it's like their idea. Like that's the mythos of their army or whatever, is that they're just hard to kill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're going to come off the board, and you're not going to be able to stop us.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't know, it looks good. I'm excited. I'm curious about what the coming rules change about these, about this new Psychic Awakening. I really want to see the rest of the 9th edition rules before I get too into list building, because it's really hard to talk about building for 8th edition when 9th edition feels like it's right around the corner. I mean, it's got to be within a month or 2, the way they're dropping spoilers and stuff like that. With that being said, I do want to talk a lot more about 9th edition. We're going to discuss Overwatch, character targeting, and charging. I do want to start with Overwatch because that's that one, man. That was a hot topic for Monday's lunch break.
I think Zach might have thought about selling all his models.
One of the things about selling my models is just
You were down.
It was heated.
it was before we realized how the charging rules had changed first. But what it boils down to, long story short, I'm never going to pay a CP to shoot on 6s. Like, changing Overwatch to a stratagem, it should have been a zero-cost stratagem, because very rarely are you going to pay a CP to shoot and hit on 6s. Now, if I have a Shadow Sword, or with Max Bolters, or Lehman Russ with a lot of shots at Punisher or something, I'll defensive Gunners and Overwatch, and then Vengeance for Cadia when I play Troy.
Ugh.
But it's
You don't
Then-
have to. That's expensive. If you leave
then
one of
it's
those
then
out,
it's definitely worth it. But to hit on 6s, it's a gut punch and a half. I understand why they're doing it. Like, I'm totally fine. It's for the most part a very useless phase of the game. Not very much happens in Overwatch unless you start stacking CPs like a Punisher with Vengeance for Cadia, defensive gunners, because that's just brutal against Chaos. But in general, 6s don't really matter. And who's going to pay a CP to shoot their guardsmen in Overwatch? Like, you're just never going to do that.
But we don't know that guardsmen won't have the Overwatch ability.
I assume that's only going to go to Marines.
Yeah,
because Marines get everything.
I'm really hoping the Overwatch. Honestly, I hope Overwatch outside of like Tau or specific units, like specific elite, not specific like elite units, but elite heavy fast attack units are the kind of things that get Overwatch. I hope they don't start throwing them on all kinds of infantry and stuff like that.
I like to see it not go on much at all.
I think it'll probably be on infantry because you notice they put in the dig in and or the defensible where infantry can hit on 5s or get +1 their hit on their the next fight phase.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that Overwatch might only be a troop thing.
I hope.
And then
not,
your stratagems are for use on the elite things. Like you gotta choose which elite model you want to shoot Overwatch with.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
if you're charging crappy guardsmen, then
that doesn't speed up the game.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
all.
Like that just makes the game just as long, and the whole purpose is to shorten the game.
Well, but I think
shooting guardsmen in Overwatch is painful.
Zach doesn't even do it half the time.
Yeah, it's
painful for everybody involved.
I have a feeling that Games Workshop is worried about. They buffed the shooting. They wanted a way so that melee armies didn't get obliterated by the good Overwatch. So they'll just eliminate the good Overwatch. So that you still get some Overwatch, but it's going to be crappy Overwatch.
Like outside of Tally, maybe some Marines or Repulsor. You don't have to worry about Overwatch that much as a melee army.
Well, and what I'm hoping for is the buffs are there so that if you decide to spend the CP to Overwatch with melee with infantry, that there are buffs there to make it
not
worth
terrible.
Yeah, worth spending. I'm hoping it's not like, oh, we're just gonna give them this. So that makes sense.
And we haven't seen all the rules. It may even be that Overwatch is just given to people that are in that kind of terrain. Like you get +1 hit and you get Overwatch. Like that's
there could be.
It might actually be just tied to the terrain, not the unit itself.
And that would make more sense to tie it to a piece of terrain, because if they limit it to only infantry units could even utilize that type of terrain, and it allowed them to have Overwatch. I would much rather see Overwatch rule. I'm super stoked about all the terrain stuff. I just hope they don't make it overly complex.
I don't think
for new players, but
if you actually go back and look at 8th edition in the book after chapter 2, it's pretty complicated. It's just mostly we just use runes.
Yeah, we don't really use like the stuff where you get -2 to charge or across the scatter field, and then if you charge and you roll a double 6, you explode on it. It's like you trigger a mine, and
we should though. We really should do that. That sounds so fun. But yeah, Overwatching. I don't know. I love how much it's going to shorten the game, because I know that even when I was playing like mono cultists, I was overwatching 80 shots and dealing like a wound or two, unless it was against another shitty infantry unit. And then I still wasn't clearing the unit. I was just dealing 4 wounds instead of 2. Like it was so, and it was like not 5 minutes, but it was a solid minute and a half of rolling, and it was so bad.
Outside of your really high output units like your Riptide, unit of robots, knights, maybe the right Rust, you really don't you're not going to get that much out of Overwatch.
Yeah,
and most of the time it is going to in a tournament setting.
That's why I don't think it should cost anything. It should be a free stratagem.
But you're getting a CP every turn.
Yeah, but I want to use that on good stuff. I don't want to be paying to hit on 6s.
The game is all about resource management.
Yeah,
I just don't think people are going to use it. I don't think it's going to.
I think that's the idea.
What I think is going to happen is there's going to be a lot of ways to buff Overwatch now via terrain and stuff like that to make it not just be on 6s, which is going to justify the 1 CP expense.
You work on cars, you need tools. Like there's a tool in your box that you don't use all the time, but when you need it, you need it.
Yeah,
that's what this is.
I guess.
It's like you're not going to use it all the time, but when you need it,
when this demon prince comes in, you're going to spend that command point.
You want it in the box.
I don't know if I will. Like I'm just like just all
the ones you've killed over the years.
Well, I mean, a demon prince is different because I will definitely pay the 3 CP if I still get my stratagems. and just kill that dude before he gets in.
What's good though is even if they get touched, like because a lot of our touching models, none of us except for Troy really played heavy melee. So usually when we touched models, it was just like they just bonked each other for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? Like nothing happened. They just kind of just knocked off of each other.
Especially if you're gonna be able to shoot.
Zach played Blood Angels and they obliterated stuff.
I also played Tyranids, which is all melee.
By a lot of their stuff, at least their unit, their troops, is just tying stuff up.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the focus was just tying the model up and stopping it from shooting, which it doesn't happen now.
Yeah.
Well, we
don't need Overwatch.
It never happened for us anyway, because anything Troy charged pretty much died because he charged things that were squishy.
Well, Troy failed roll 3d6 rolls for like 4
I'm just
inches.
saying, but generally, like Troy played the kind of melee models you wanted to kill in Overwatch because if they got in, they were going to murder what they
I remember
touched.
having Marines on a Storm or Shadow Sword.
Well,
I didn't always shoot.
I mean, Plague Marines aren't really what you want to be attacking a Shadow Sword with. So
you don't want to be attacking a Shadow Sword. I'm just going to put that out there. If you're a Chaos player, don't touch it.
If you can get there from around the corner, maybe.
Yeah,
I believe that's what happened with the Plague Marines. The Plague Marines were the get in the charge, eat all the Overwatch units, and Troy tried to kill it with something else, and
it didn't work.
That died on the way in. Or no, that died in combat. Zach crushed him.
Yeah,
crushed him.
So Troy had a bunch of Plague Marines just riding around, scratching the paint on a.
I think they were on like the second level terrain, so I thought it'd be funny to have them jump on it.
So they were just riding around on it while Zach was shooting the boulders at them.
But I honestly think we're probably talking 15 minutes save time in game.
Oh, for sure.
Assuming Overwatch is as written.
A lot of tournaments have gone to chess clock, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, and
a lot of people just don't shoot Overwatch to save time anyway.
Yeah, and now it's not like a feel badsy moment.
I agree. I think we're all on the same page. Except I think it should cost 0.
I wouldn't be upset if it cost 0. I think there needs to be more 0-point stratagems. Like you can do a really low.
It's just so low impact.
Yeah, a low impact effect.
If the game was the same as it is now, and you could easily, if you weren't certain armies, you would only get like 8 CP, 6 CP, whatever. You're gonna get 12, and you're gonna get 1 a turn. I don't mind it being 1 CP.
Yeah, 12 is. we went down that road last week. I think 12 is plenty to start with, so I think that's good. I think Overwatch is honestly, I'm happy about it because I'm definitely one of those people that like. I want to roll as many dice as I can because those 1 or 2 wounds occasionally matter, and it really sucks though to like have my opponent sit there while I roll 200 dice between all the re-rolls and stuff like that just to get like 2 wounds out. Like
another thing, Zach, Overwatch isn't necessarily always shot with weapons that need to hit.
That's true. Yeah, I think we're gonna get a lot more flamer, depending on the points increase. Like if they like.
So therefore, the 1 CP would be worth it. You know,
yeah. Like, if they're within range of the flamers.
Well, yeah. I mean, who's going to Overwatch when they're outside of range? Just crazy talk.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying if they're within 8 inches, like. I always just anticipate having to be a 9 inches away.
As a melee army, that's pretty easy to stay out of range. But I think you might see if they want to stop that and want to make Overwatch. You might increase the range of flamers. Well, that really hurts melee armies, but it makes them a little more impact.
Say like Hellhounds don't have Overwatch.
Yeah, you don't want to charge a Hellhound.
Well, but right now, say Zach's playing 3, right?
Uh-huh.
If they don't have the Overwatch ability, you get to charge. Like he can only punish you on one of them.
Right.
So there becomes a game where.
It was definitely a shell game.
Where you're trying to be like, use your Overwatch stratagem, and I'm going to charge this Hellhound. I mean, it's going to explode and do stuff, but if you need victory points or whatever you need, you know.
It's like, you're doing things wrong if you're charging 3 different Hellhounds on
That's
one
what I'm saying. Like, if you want to charge a bunch of Hellhounds,
things have gone very awry if that's your plan. To charge 3 different Hellhounds on one turn.
Well, but I'm saying...
Or you have a really good melee.
Maybe.
Yeah, but you're going to get blown up.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, but like big,
and it's still going to be able to shoot if you don't
kill them.
going
to save that CP to
well, I was like,
wound you instead of
big game hunter. Big game hunter is the thing.
Wounds.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree.
And let's say if you got flamered by it, you're going to lose X many models.
Yeah.
You're probably going to lose less than if it explodes on you. Just charge and kill it.
Oh, yeah. I think that Overwatch this way, especially now that you can shoot in melee, I think Overwatch as is was needed. Because... like, melee armies were already taking a pretty significant hit being able to...
I think it's a good trade-off. You can't get tied up anymore. Now you may not devastate.
But we also got to remember at the start of 8th, you could basically deep strike on their shit.
That was really bad though.
Yeah, but that's the way the game was. 8th edition was designed. You know, like Tyranids could basically drop Hive Tyrants in your back line and
yeah, just like sup.
And
do infinite freaking smites and
yeah. So
we're assuming they're still going to keep that rule where you can't deep strike on the first turn. I don't know if they confirm that.
From what we've heard, from what
you're
I've
gonna
heard
be able to deep strike into your own.
Yeah, you'll be able to deep strike on turn 1 just on your board edge or in your deployment zone.
It sounds like the requirements for deep strike reduce as the game goes on. So I think like turn 1, it's in your own zone. Turn 2, it'll be anywhere within 9 inches. I think.
What I heard was it's going to be their board edge, so you got to be within 6 inches on anywhere on the board, but it's got to be on the board edge. And then like turn 3 will be anywhere 9 inches or what, like. Yeah,
and then maybe like turn 4 means you can come in combat range.
Is that
you know what I mean?
Deep strike going to do that?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of the idea is deep strike will be modular.
There's like a blanket deep strike strategy, and we think that's how it's going to work.
Well, but there's going to be probably things to ignore it, drop pods.
Well, in 6 inches within a board edge on a smaller board, I mean, it's still going to feel pretty good.
That much board edge.
Yeah.
But you're talking, there's still probably going to be things to ignore the tactical reserves because just like Gene Stealers,
you can just do 200 guardsmen around.
Well, now here's the thing though, they may say just 6 inches within the board edge, not 9 inches away, so you could come in combat.
No, I don't think that's the plan. That sounds really dangerous.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I think they've already learned their lesson to where if they're going to do it within 6 inches of the board edge, they're going to make it to where you can't just say, well, I'm going to cover the whole board edge.
Yeah.
Get fucked. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there will be, like, stipulations of, you know, if you come in within 6 inches of the board edge.
I was pretty upset about the Overwatch, but then, like, a day later or a couple hours later, they tell you that if you're going to multi-charge, you have
that
to...
was a big
well,
one.
they didn't actually tell us. They leaked it on accident. It was in the Sisters
I think people...
faction focus.
I think that was more of a... Well, everyone's jumping ship and over with...
Freaking out.
Yeah. They're like, whoa.
All right. Well,
wait till you see
let's just transition into charging. Let's go ahead and talk about that because
it shouldn't take very long.
Yeah, it's only a little rule, but it's a big one.
It changes everything a lot. That makes the Overwatch feel a lot better.
So when we first heard about Overwatch not being able, you had to pay CP, and you're only going to be able to do it with one unit. My first, and I think a lot of people's reaction was, well, I'm just going to charge everything because there's no
downside.
It's literally what you said.
It's like, everything within 12 inches, I'm charging it. Don't care.
Yep.
Because then, like any of your units that can fight again, like one of the things now is you charge 6 different things. You got to worry about a lot of Overwatch, and you probably won't have the unit to fight again. But now that was the original idea. But then they came out and said you have to
be able to get to everything.
You have to make the charge.
Your charge roll has to get shit of everything that you declare charging in.
Yes.
Otherwise, you don't get to move at all.
Yes.
So that's significant.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because if there's no, like Troy said, if there's no downside to charging something, then you'll just charge everything.
Yeah.
So you have to be like, okay, there's no Overwatch, so you just can't charge everything on the board. You gotta make it.
And honestly, I think it's silly. Like, that was one of those things like mega multi-charges where you're like targeting shit 12 inches away and 4 inches away. And like, I just feel like
you make it. If you didn't, it's like, well, I only wanted to charge this one anyway. But if it's a freebie, if I got lucky,
it felt not right. I like it being this way. Like, if you declare that backline unit, then you got to get there, or it doesn't work. I think
see it both ways. Because if I was charging something, if I was running up the field with a bunch of dudes, we're gonna get as far as we can, and we're not gonna know till we get there.
But thematically, like, that's our, like, we just roll the dice, but like, you're thinking this happens in a split second. So like, if you guys, like, your troops, whenever the rolling is happening, could be like them rolling 8 inches or whatever, but they needed 12, could be them tripping over something in the battlefield.
I always say it like the commander is like, gives them the command, like, you guys charge that unit there. You know, like, you guys need to take that position.
Really? Yeah.
And they're like, but if you got too greedy and you were like, well, I need you to charge way back there, it's an error in tactics.
Yeah, I always think of it like real-time D&D games. Like, you declare what you're going to do, and then you roll to see whether or not it happens. And when it doesn't happen, there's a reason why it didn't happen.
That's fair.
And so, like, if you're trying to charge the units in the back, like, and the units in the front, like everybody could just get confused and just go nowhere. They're like, wait, I thought we were going there, and they're like, no, I thought we were going over here, and they just stand there.
Because if I was there in front of a tank and like say 2 guys behind him, and we were charging at it, and we suddenly were like, oh, we're not gonna make it, we wouldn't just stand in place.
Yeah, but would you just charge a tank anyway?
Yep, I would, because it'd be better to be close to it than far from it.
I just like.
But I like the change that, you know, to make a charge, you have to be successful on all your charge rolls.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense. It feels better. It just
makes
feels
sense
like
in the rule of the game.
Yeah.
Especially in balance.
Especially with no Overwatch.
Yes.
Or less
Exactly.
Overwatch.
Yeah. They fixed the exploit. Everybody was like, well.
Which I think they say it was a leak, but I'm pretty sure this was a don't give up on us yet. All the rules aren't out yet.
They were like, deploy the charge rules.
There's a little, yeah.
Oh,
They saw the writing on the wall. They're like, whoa.
Yeah, the entire
All the
community
rules
got
aren't
together
out.
and they're like, wait, this doesn't make sense.
Also,
Yeah,
if you've been thinking about getting into Tau, check Facebook Marketplace, dude. Tau is cheap.
It was everywhere that before
It
the charge.
still is.
Yeah.
Tau is
I mean, it is.
everywhere.
Everybody's out. They're like, wait, we had 2 shooting phases. You took one away from us.
Yeah.
Kind of a big deal. I'm
Well,
sure they're
they
going to
did.
get special.
Hey, they're gonna rebalance them. Don't
Well,
worry.
they've said
My
that-
advice is buy these Tau models for half price.
Yeah,
while you can.
anything that people are dumping, old
Yeah.
Necrons, Tau,
Yeah.
like grab it up.
They have said they're still going to get for the greater good. So, but like, you're just not going to get to it with your whole army. You get to do it.
Here's what I
with
think
one
Tau.
section.
Here's what I think Tau's gonna have. They're gonna have the general Overwatch rule that every army has, and then they're gonna have a Tau specific Overwatch rule also. And so they're gonna get like, I mean, really, the reason Tau Overwatch so much was for the greater good. It wasn't that they were overwatching with every single model because all of them were being charged. I
Yeah,
just think they'll be able to do it 2 times in one turn, not 1 time, and that's plenty. Like that's a lot of
Because with the
Overwatch.
greater good, it's everything within the 6 inches.
Yeah,
Right, but then
Well,
it
see, the
can't
problem-
shoot again.
Yeah, the
Well, yeah.
thing is, like,
I think
it's very
what you'll
gamey
see
now.
is you don't even have to change the rule that much. They pay CP for one unit to shoot, and then the rule kicks in, and everything else can shoot.
yeah.
So they'll still have to pay the CP, I think, to shoot the Overwatch. They'll just get the greater good on top of it.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Isn't even close.
They said that when I
Yeah,
was going
I'm
to
just saying. I think they'll have an additional Overwatch stratagem, so they can Overwatch more than 1 time in their phase, because they're an Overwatch army. I mean, that is like their thing. Like they're.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that's the thing that everybody, when no one wants to play against Tau. Everyone who plays against Tau is like, I hate it, because basically they just sit there and shoot twice.
It's a very one-dimensional army. At least when you like a lot of people, not all Tau players, but when you see competitive Tau players, like tournament Tau players, it's one dimension. Like they're doing one thing. They're sitting there, maybe
Broadsides,
a couple
riptides.
units moving out.
I mean, that's a GW design though.
Yes,
And they're not going to redesign the entire functionality.
but that's not how the whole army is designed.
I mean, they have some melee stuff, but like,
No, not melee necessarily, but they have mobile units. They have
a
their,
lot of their units fly. You just
Yeah,
never
they-
see them fly because.
yeah, because they just
But that was also partly that is the penalty to move with heavy weapons.
that's true. That's
And they have
also-
terrible ballistic skills, so it was really punishing to move them.
Yeah.
Now we're not going to have to do that.
yeah,
So now you're going to see flying castles. It's going to be awesome.
yeah. I really, really love the heavy rule being generalized among all armies vehicles. I think that is like a change that needed to happen
Well, it's
because
on infantry, not just
No,
vehicles.
that's what it means. Vehicle.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying it's like even monsters now ignore.
Yeah.
infantry doesn't though. They're still
Infantry
effective.
doesn't, but monsters and vehicles.
Yeah. And that's I like that. Like just like being able to move stuff around without penalty, because it felt really stupid that like these very specifically designed units for shooting that also had like tank treads or whatever.
And it wasn't specific.
All
to
of a sudden
each,
we're penalized for
Like,
shooting
one thing with tank
like,
treads,
and moving.
one thing with tank treads could order, and another thing couldn't. Like it wasn't the same across the whole game. So I like that it is now.
All right. Well, I think we talked enough about the charging.
Yep.
But the last new spoiler, as far as I know, maybe we can have Chad there check us out and see if there's any other rules been dropped while we've been recording, is the character targeting rule. And this needed to happen. Like, so it's called Look Out, Sir. Models cannot target a unit that contains any character models with a wound characteristic of 9 or less with a ranged weapon while that unit is within 3 inches of any other friendly vehicle or monster unit or while it is within 3 inches of any other friendly units that have 3 or more models, unless that character unit is both visible to the firing model and is the closest enemy unit to the firing model. So short version of that,
That was a very long sentence.
it is.
It's a complicated rule,
So
but not.
yeah, it's simply put is if it's standing next to infantry of 3 or more, it can't be targeted as long as it's not the closest.
Anything. Doesn't even need to be infantry.
Well, I'm saying it's 2 separate things on
Well,
there.
it could be swarms. It could be.
It's true. It's just a unit of 3 or more.
Yeah,
It's
a
just
unit of 3 or more, or anything big, as long as it's not the closest unit. So you can't, like, I will tell you, I for sure would run cultists or plague bearers up the battlefield, and my demon princes would be nowhere near any of that shit. Getting ready to just give them the business, and I just measure to keep it, within the closest. It'd be one cultist that was just like way out there that could technically be closer than the demon prince, and I would just never pick that specific model up out of the unit.
You could also hide units in like your eliminators, your scouts, and hide them inside buildings
Close.
and kind of negate that. And
Yes.
That's going to go away unless you want that demon prince or whatever to be next to them.
But that still applies, right?
If
because
it's
it
within
says-
3 inches.
It's got to be within 3
Well, but
inches.
if it says you can only fire at it if it's the closest and visible.
And in the next to those guys.
Yeah, it has to be within 3 inches of a unit of
They're
3 or more.
specifically killing.
You can
them.
hide the guy in the terrain. That's
Yeah,
fine.
you
I'm
can
talking
put
about-
him in the terrain, but it has to be within 3 inches of them.
But it says unless that character is both visible and it is the closest enemy unit. That is still the same thing that was in 8th edition. Like
But-
if there's a closer unit, doesn't matter if it's visible or not, you still can't shoot that guy.
What I'm saying.
Yeah, but that doesn't change. You can still hide your scouts in the terrain and then have him out here in the open. That thing is still close.
He's got to be within 3 inches or he doesn't
He has
count.
to be within 3 inches or it doesn't apply.
Read the whole rule.
The whole rule says that if he's
He has
not...
to be close, visible, and not within 3 inches of something.
It's definitely within 3 inches.
Yeah.
or next to
Or a big thing.
Yeah. Like if I have scouts in the middle of the building and he's out in the middle of nowhere,
You can
he's
shoot at him.
targetable.
Yeah, you can shoot at him now.
Whether they-
Before,
which was a
Even
silly
if-
rule before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even
it
if
was-
they can't see him. Like you get him with a basilisk now.
like, he could literally be the only guy on the battlefield that you
Yeah.
could see because all of your scout squads are totally hidden.
That's
and
where I
they'd
think-
be like, guess we can't shoot him.
That's why I think this is going to become big is the later turns of the game when you're down to your like 3-man units or less and a couple characters running around.
Well, I think it makes captains and stuff way more viable because before you just took a high impact character knowing he was protected and he could do whatever he do his own thing all the time. Now, like taking things like captains and buffing units that you need to stand next to is more relevant. I mean, it's not like captains were bad. I just feel like they're better. You know what I mean? Any captain style unit. I feel like you're going to see a lot people play a lot more like low impact characters that have auras than like demon princes. Even though they do have an aura, they're still kind of expensive and they really want to touch something.
I think you're still going to take your demon princes. I think you're just going to be less gung-ho with them.
Well, like
They're gonna have
I
to
could
stay
see
with the
taking
guys.
it like an exalted sorcerer in like Zinch over like a
You
demon
might
prince
just
for the
slow
lower
down and
points.
walk with your Terminators or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Which
Something
I've
like
kind of
that.
done, which is kind of the way you want to do it. You want them to have that protection. You need them to. Even demon princes are kind of fragile.
Oh, they definitely are. They're only
Yeah.
T6.
So is like Demon Prince with wings less impactful now, you
It's
think?
possible for sure
Yeah.
Maybe you walk them.
because you can get that 12 inches on the charge if you're really lucky. But
Well,
you
yeah.
can get that extra inches on charge. So if you're not planning to do the first turn thing, which you probably won't be with these new rules,
The wings are so good though, just to be able to ignore terrain.
It's true.
So, like, I could still see.
well, we
he'll
don't know
probably-
how that's going to work yet either.
That's
They
true.
have not spoiled all the rules.
And they still haven't fixed flying. So
But just
They
throwing.
just change it every couple months.
I'm sure there'll be new wording. Like they've just been waiting on that.
it's like
Yeah.
I still don't understand why they just can't be like base to base. If you're a flyer and you're charging and you're up high or they're up high, or just measure diagonally base to base.
If there was always going to be a new edition recently, they probably just didn't put the effort into it.
But I
Like,
mean,
we'll just do it with 9th edition. It's
they've
fine.
tried 3 times and failed every single time they've tried to fix it.
Yeah.
But I think like I'm just happy that you can't just like throw Nurglings out or throw Scout Squads out in random ass places and let your characters kind of run. It feels especially good in Demons because you could run like Thousand Suns Demon Princes where you get 2 spell casts per turn, and they're protected by Nurglings because you were always pretty much playing Nurglings, and they could just
Or
they were
plague bears, or whatever.
and both. I mean, and it was just like
That was kind of the crux of that whole army, was abusing the character rule.
True.
yeah, and that's exactly what it was. Like whenever this character rule was being used the way that you can't use it anymore, it was just abusing it. Like there was no like really fair scenario where that was happening, and thematically, like it definitely didn't make sense when your character's just like hanging out by himself and just can't be shot at by anybody. Because like I know that if I was in a freaking war and I saw a flying demon and some little Nurglings, you know, half a mile away from him, yeah, I know which thing I'd shoot at.
Never the Nurglings.
I think it definitely makes your non-line of sight weapons a lot more powerful. Especially like your Basilisk and your Plague Burst Crawler. Like that's a big thing.
And they needed that, but Plague Burst Crawler definitely needed, like, all the buffs it's received, I think, were all needed.
For sure.
I think all those things are going to go up dramatically in points, though, because there's such a powerful effect.
Yeah.
It's true.
Non-line of sight is insane.
Especially now if you'll be able to just, oh, you left your character, he's 5 inches away now.
Yeah, now
You
you're
weren't
just
paying
all
attention.
sniper rifles.
All of a sudden he's dead.
Kind of crazy.
That's a big deal. Maybe those weapons should just never be able to target characters.
And there may be some sort of stipulation or something like that to it. I mean, we don't know.
That might
for
be
sure.
too much of a nerf, but I think it's almost going to feel like you're going to have to make sure. Oh, this guy can't.
It may
be
just
seen.
say the characters have to be within line of sight to be targeted still. Like, I don't.
It might be.
I thought that rule maybe said that they had to be within line of sight.
I don't think it
actually.
specifically does, but it might later.
Yeah. So the non-line of sight stuff can't target characters if it's not within line of sight. So that could be a reasonable,
I
alternative.
think it
to
definitely
that.
hurts your scouts a little bit. Like they're still going to be good,
Well, they're insane.
but they're
anyway.
not. They're not going to be great. Like they're not going to
They
do.
still take up a bunch of space.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's so much scouts as, like, if you're talking about Space Marines.
I just mean
specifically.
like those units in general that can deploy forward. Like
So with the smaller board and stuff and shrinking deep strike areas,
yeah,
scouts are still going to be really powerful.
Yeah, because I that's all I see them as now. Because what's the buffed scout squad?
the infiltrators. I
The
think?
infiltrators. Don't
The
they?
Phobos
Don't
dudes.
Or the,
yeah?
or
Don't
the
they negate
eliminators.
like a 12-inch radius?
The,
You can't deep
Phobos
strike.
guy,
Like
the captain or whatever it is. For
Well, the regular
The
guys
regular guys,
do
the infiltrators do.
I thought that only the sergeant.
No, the captain, the infiltrators, and maybe the lieutenant. I'm not sure. I'm lieutenant.
yeah. So that 12-inch area denial I think is going to be insane.
Yeah.
So especially if what we're hearing is everybody's going to be able to deep strike. Any unit. So that is going to be a big deal.
I think it does also change the whole dynamic of the game, because it seems like, at least competitively, turn one is such a big deal.
Maybe.
Like getting your stuff shot off the board if
Yeah.
you didn't go first, or just the way positioning matters. Where if everyone gets a deep strike, the issue is everyone gets to hide their good stuff.
Yes.
So you're like, I don't want this to disappear turn one, so I'll just put it over here.
Yeah, and that to me is good. Like that kind of, because my big concern was with every army starting with 12 CP, period, was first turn matters still felt absurdly good. So hopefully being able to deep strike everything will kind of balance that out. But I still think, like, if you're an alpha strike, if you're a first turn alpha strike army, like I think on a smaller board, say you do deep strike a bunch of shit, right? And Zach is playing Nids, and he moves 3 units 40 inches across the board and just takes your whole board. Like, there's still like counters to people that deep strike a bunch of shit. And first, I still feel like with all the CP, first turn's going to matter a lot, but I definitely like deep striking to protect units when it's shoot versus shoot. But like things like Nids being able to move 40 inches could really help counter people just being like, well, I'm just going to hide everything
like
good.
Nids, obviously you want to keep your best units as far away from Gene Stealers as possible.
Yeah.
You're just like, you stay over there with your Gene Stealers, I'm going to be in the back. But like Zach did, Zach was it to learn?
Yeah,
You
always
deep strike a Baneblade.
Yep.
He's like, you know what? You're not shooting it off the board turn one.
Yeah, guaranteed
When
value.
Castellan was really big, you just preemptively put your Trojan where you Baneblade's gonna come, or your Shadow Sword's gonna come in.
There's always this giant brick space just missing in the back.
Yep.
I think that's why we might actually see a bigger limit on what you can like how many points or power level, however they do it.
I hope they don't do power
They're
level.
going to do power.
They're not
level.
going to do power level because they've already gone away from it. And the current one is points instead of power level. But I think you're going to see less being able to deep strike, or possibly how much you can bring in one turn. Like the first turn, you might only be able to bring in one unit. I think that would kind of negate this whole hide 3 repulsors and just call it a day.
Yeah.
No, it depends on we just
Yeah,
don't
we don't know all the rules
We just
yet.
don't know
Yeah, that's what I'm
enough
saying.
yet.
But I like it seems like it'll make the game less about turn one. We
Yeah,
talked about
See,
that.
everything-
I think with the rules way they've switched the rules around towards the later editions of 8th or later portion of 8th
There are
edition,
very few first turn Alpha Strike armies.
I feel like I take second turn or playing second way more often than I take playing first, and I play guard. Like I'd rather the armies walk forward and come out of cover, that way I can shoot
I think
more effectively.
most of the time you would like to go second.
Like the
I would go
rules have
first
really
mostly so I can
skewed.
do my second powers off.
ITC rules have definitely skewed to where second is really powerful now. I don't know if it's the best, but it's a lot closer than it was earlier in 8th edition.
Well, I'm just saying that like there's a lot of games where losing crucial models on the first turn
well, yeah,
really just topples the game.
Yeah,
So it's
but-
like now you could be like, I'm definitely not losing this model on the first turn.
but now you can counter deploy. So
But that's actually more to Zach's point because you can go second and hide whatever you're going to do and move it with no penalty now.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first turn person, if they want to shoot it, it's got to be out there. And the second turn person,
I think
can
counter
have it where it
deploy,
can't be
getting player that goes first has to deploy everything, and then I get to choose where to put stuff. That's super powerful.
Oh,
it is.
It's like I know I can just put all my tanks behind all this line of sight blocking terrain because I know exactly where you're at and where you can move. And
Yeah.
then you have to, or you just sit there for a turn and don't shoot anything. Either way, I win this.
Yep.
I'm in the driver's seat, so I think it's changed a lot.
Being able to pick your map.
The beginning of first or 8th edition, yeah, it was definitely all about who won the die roll, and it felt really bad. And I don't think it's like that
I
anymore.
think they're doing a good job at evening out and maybe even making it more towards going second. Like, I think going first, it still has some good parts of it. Like,
Oh,
I
well,
get my second buffs
There's
off.
definitely the potential just to wipe somebody off the board if you go first. There always is.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is a lot of times you're not like you're playing an Alpha Strike army, but the people you're playing against are not Alpha Strikes. So like it benefits you to go second because they walk into your gunfire. But like if you're playing against like when I'm playing Necrons, you definitely don't want me to go first because half of my army can shoot all the way across the board
Right.
on the first turn. And that's a count. So like we're both playing Alpha Strike armies because I don't want you to go first because I can't hide my shit.
Right.
And your tanks are gonna shoot it. Like those matches.
Yes, there's definitely matchups where it matters. Like if you can fly 40 inches and kill tanks on the first turn, yeah, that plays out different. But if you're a line of sight based army and you don't have 40 inches of movement, then hiding is a viable tactic. If hiding is viable, then going second is probably where you want to be.
I think for the most part, if you're getting blown off on the first turn, now you've deployed wrong. One way or another.
But how do you think that's going to apply on the smaller battlefield?
Well, that's true. We don't know, but I think
Depends
it's
on the
still
terrain
part
and
of. It's
stuff, too.
definitely been on the terrain.
Yeah.
And
So-
in a tournament, they're going to have line of sight blocking terrains.
yeah,
in
did you
every
see?
corner.
Did you see GW actually had their recommended amount of terrain
I heard that they
on
did
the
that.
I have not seen it,
on the
no.
table?
And it's going to be in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously it's going to
So there's going to be like a standard amount of terrain that is expected to be on the
be. So
battlefield.
you may not be able to hide everything, but if you're doing things right, you need to, your stuff's going to be hidden. If you're having a problem getting blown off the board on the first turn consistently, you need to reevaluate how you're deploying your army.
Or play with more terrain on your table.
Yes, that is also possible. You may not have enough terrain in your play group.
That's totally fair.
The time we saw the guys with no terrain on the table.
That
Wondering,
seems
One guy had
bad.
2 Beyblades. Yeah.
wondering what
The other
was
guy
going
had
on.
Tyranids was trying to run it from
Yeah.
one side to the other. We were like, this isn't going to work.
Wow. I don't know. I think I still think first turn matters quite a bit. I definitely agree it matters a lot less than it did when we first started
I
playing.
think it still matters. I
argue
just don't
that.
think it's as important to go first.
But I think there's
it's
also-
definitely the first turn is still huge.
But I think there's that play to the deep strike rule as far as like, I can just put this over here
Yeah.
and it's guaranteed 100%
Yeah.
to not get.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah, that side of it I definitely think will be good to counter first turn. Anything that makes first turn matter less, like
That's
because
that's what I'm saying though is eventually nobody's going to want to take the first shot. You're going to want to go second.
Yeah.
Because I keep just piling on. Like it's even beneficial for scoring.
Yeah,
I can
it's
see
way
because-
beneficial to go second for
So
scoring.
it's like everything is starting to lean more that way. So
I feel like I've always played an army to where like I've always played an Alpha Strike army. Like I've always played like if I can do this, this, and this and go first, like I'm gonna have too much. The tables are going to be too far out of balance, and so I'm incredibly focused on it because usually like because when I was playing Chaos, I was playing forward operatives, cultists, so them going first was absolutely stupid. And orcs, same thing. You wanted to jump stuff, and you wanted to, you 100% wanted to go first. The Luda bombs, the mech guns, like all that shit, you wanted to go first. And now I'm doing Necrons, and it's the same thing. Like I really want to just make sure that my 3 doom sides get close together, trigger their mega mortal wound area of effect, and kill 4 dreadnoughts in 1 turn.
And Bobby G.
And Bobby G. That actually happened because
he didn't reroll.
He didn't reroll his explosion, and then all of his models like rolled 6s to blow up. It was hilarious.
On the dreadnoughts.
Done on the first turn.
Yeah, first turn deleted 4 dreadnoughts and a Bobby G. It was crazy. But yeah, I've always played the super like hyper Alpha Strike focused armies, so I guess I'm just way more focused on how much first turn matters. But I mean, I got blown out because I was still playing too aggressive, and
there's definitely
these guys learn
things
how
you
to
can
play
do.
cagey.
Yeah, we've played a lot, and you can learn pretty easily how if your opponent's going to come at you every time on the first turn the same way or a similar way, you can kind of figure out how to stop that, and you can even kind of bait them with certain units. So there's definitely ways to fight that. It is still a good option to strike on the first turn, obviously, but they've given armies a lot more leeway to fight back against that. Like we said in the first, being in 8th edition, it was all about getting across the board on the first turn or deep strike on the first turn. And then a lot of melee. There is still the Alpha Strike, but it's a lot more like shooting, like you said. Like you're not getting a ton of units into melee on the first turn.
Yeah, they've definitely done what they can to fix that. You guys are right. I mean, I definitely don't argue that. It feels more apparent to me because I've always played like it just seems like an easy victory if you can just wipe out like if I'm playing and I can say, okay, well these 3 units are pretty much the things that can handle my heavies. So can I kill them on the first turn? And if I can kill 2 of those 3, then I win. Mathematically, I'm going to win that game because you can't handle my other stuff. So, but if you can deep strike them, they're protected. And now, being able to deploy second after my whole army's deployed is definitely helpful. I guess it just feels like, for me, because I have the Doom size and they just target an area on the board and drop all the mortal wounds, that just still feels really good. But generally, I guess every army doesn't have that sort of ridiculous solution. So, yeah, you guys are right. It definitely matters less. It just still feels like it matters a little bit too much.
For sure.
Because if you could cripple an opponent's ability to interact with your army,
Yeah.
it just like I said, it tips the scales. So it's like, okay, well he's only got these 3 or 4 units that can really hurt what my army is like, what your list is built to do.
Yeah.
And if you can take away his ability to push back at what you do best, that's what the strategy's about.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to take care of this unit, and then he's got half the ability to do it, and then the next turn, he won't have any.
Yeah.
A lot of your good players, even if you do take out their ability, like we've seen multiple players, like the demon players, take 1 dreadnought and lose on the first turn, and they still get all these points. Like if you can deal with losing that and still make your movements right and stay on line of sight, avoid certain and get the points, take up some of the board, you can still play the game even if you lose your most effective unit. On the
I'm not saying you can't win. It just makes it
a lot harder.
It tips the scales. It's like you're fighting the uphill battle. If you lose, So I think that the deep strike eliminates some of that.
Yeah. Well, we touched a little bit on the character thing, as much as I think can be touched on it without seeing all the rules, and the charging in Overwatch. What I want to talk about next is Troy and Anvil's last game. That's going to be the game we discussed this week. And, we'll see what they gained from it. So what were you guys playing?
This is my first game playing all Codex Demons in a like list I really like. I played a bunch of different. I played all 4 of the Chaos Gods, like So I had access to all the stratagems, a lot of different psychic abilities I got to test out. And I used the new Exalted Demon rules. I really liked those. Wasn't sure how much I would like them when I first saw them, but after playing with them, a lot of fun. Like, just another layer of making them survivable or do more damage. It just gives them another, like, they are expensive and easy to target, and giving them a little more to them, I really like. It's definitely worth the CP.
Awesome. What were you playing, Anvil?
I played Adeptus Mechanicus. I played my pretty much what's become my standard list. 2 battalions, 20 Electro Priests, 10 each battalion, and 10 each in a Scorpius Dune Rider, the little skimmer boat transport. 3 of the hoverboat mortar tanks, 3 Dune crawlers with neuron lasers, and and a squad of 6 Sidonian Dragoons with tasers, and then just troops and some a Daedalus and some engine seers for because you need some cheap HQs.
Yeah. So who won this one?
Troy walked me.
Oh, okay.
I got open points real early.
Well,
we had the 5-point TC mission. There's 5 objectives.
It was precious cargo.
Yeah, you got to choose one.
You got to choose one as your primary, and the bonus is control 3 or your opponent's.
It didn't used to be control 3, I don't think, because that seems really easy.
It's control 3 or your opponent's primary.
Yeah, and you're playing
Priority.
Nerdlings and
Yeah,
stuff,
I got
right?
the bonus, and it's at the end of your turn, not the end of the battle round.
Yeah,
So I got So I got the bonus almost every turn.
because you got the Boyd Nurglings in the middle of the board. So you got that one, and plus the 2 in his.
We had Hammer and
Hammer.
Hamel, so the same. So both objectives were in my deployment zone. Like, that's not always the case, but in that one I had 2 objectives in my deployment zone. Another one only
9 inches.
9 inches away.
6
Okay.
inches.
So even after he got into the Nurglings, the Plague Bearers were already there to take that objective back.
That makes sense. That's
the,
rough.
The biggest issue I have with Troy's army is I have my biggest punch as far as hard-hitting weaponry is my Dune Crawlers. The lasers are strength 12 -4, D6 damage, minimum of 3. Well, they're great against Lehman Russes and things that don't have invulnerable saves that choose them up because they only get D3 shots. Against the Big Bird, the Lord of Change, and the Great Unclean One, not great because I only get D3 shots. So let's say I get max shots and I get 3 wounds. Like one gonna go through maybe, and Troy has the bird, which he gives the Warlord ability.
So it's a Lord of Change with the Relic Impossible Robe because it's +1 in normal save. So it has a 3-up. You can't warp search or anything, so it's just stuck with a 3-up, but it is a 3-up. And then I give him the Warlord trait to reduce 1 damage to him. Anything damages him is reduced by 1. And then I rolled. This time I rolled on the Exalted traits because I've been wanting to try him out, and I figured 2 was better than 1. And he got -1 to hit that time too. So he was -1 to hit on top of everything else.
Wow.
And he got to roll for get free CP back.
Yeah. Once per turn.
So the weapons that I have to deal with his big hard hitting units are pretty ineffective.
Yeah.
So the best thing my army could do then would be I move my transports forward with the Electro Priests, try to get them out, kill some squads of smaller units, etc., and get their invulnerable saves and try to get into melee and the other things down. The issue is they really can't effectively deal with a big plague bearer or the plague bearer blob.
Yeah.
There's just too many. I can't. A squad of 10, even if I got both of them in there, can't get them down. And there were 2 kind of choke points around the center, so I couldn't really get. I got my dragoons in to skull cannons and killed a skull cannon. That's fine, but they kind of got jammed up there to where the big Great Unclean One could get over there, and then psychic abilities.
You pushed your priests and your dragoons up. So I kind of just left the Great Unclean
Well, you
One.
blew my transports up. They had to get out.
Yeah.
So I wasn't. It wasn't like I chose to get out. I really didn't want to get out there, but
Right.
I had to get out there.
Yeah.
So
So they pushed into my side of the board, and I was able to just leave the Great Unclean One and the demon prince is behind. So
Just
they never
clean that
actually.
up.
Yeah, I was fighting back there basically. They're 3 of them vulnerable, so you basically have to smite them, try and get them off the board, and they got to feel no pain, so they're hard to kill. So I'm in the back of the board. Most of my stuff was hidden from his main firepower. The bird wasn't.
The bird wasn't.
Bird has 3 of them vulnerable.
Well, I mean, I
shoot at 'em
shot
all day.
I got to go first. You chose
It's
to go
bad
second.
value to shoot at the bird.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
but he got the second turn, and I shot at the great unclean one and did like 4 wounds, and then he healed himself. Well,
Yeah.
he healed himself, but then
I believe it at peril.
perils on the
Trying to heal
heal. So
myself, which I've done so many times. It's annoying.
so he healed what he perils himself. So he would have healed that damage up anyway. I didn't.
And I think after that, I just backed him up out of the range where you
Yeah.
couldn't see him.
So I guess my question is, Anvil, if you could have done something different, knowing what you know now from that game, what did you glean from that loss? That other than the fact that you're obviously ineffective shooting, but if you played that same list again, what would you do different?
I think I really just it's tough for me because I have to try to take the middle point to get bonuses because Troy started with just a bonus. He's like I'm going to start with a 1 point lead, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Because at the end of his turn, he's going to have the bonus. So because I shot all 3 of my hover tanks at the Nurglings, which were inside cover, in terrain, on an objective, couldn't even kill the Nurglings.
Yeah.
So despite the hover boats being good, can't kill Nurglings. So I was like, well, I advanced 2 squads up of vanguards up because I was like, well, my only chance is next turn I'll have to border them again and charge in. But by then the plague bearers are there.
Yeah.
So now plague bearers are -1 to hit, and
-2 to hit. I don't think I made him -2 to hit.
because
Yeah,
generally
yeah,
they're not profitable to shoot at. There's just too many.
His mortars were like the only thing to shoot him. It wasn't really worth it.
Yeah, it's like force and stubbers, just a little bit of stubber fire, but like
Yeah.
they're not profitable to shoot at. And he's playing the sloppity bile piper, and he has the icon, so he just gets them back anyway. So what's the point? But they pushed on the center objective, which became the bonus point. So it's hard to. I don't really have the tools to wither the big unit down.
Well, what size is the unit?
20.
Plague bears.
28.
28. So it's a lot.
It's a lot. I can't really.
They don't hit hard.
No, they just stay alive.
They just stay alive.
They
Yeah.
stay alive, and like even if I run my electro priest in there, and like they just get locked up in combat, and then the great unclean one is, you know what I mean? The bird of the great unclean one could have just moved in and just rained. So
What about the
I don't deal-
Judy goons though? With the tasers, because they're actually pretty efficient.
They are. They just.
but they
You
only have
can get them to
-1.
go where you want.
They only have -1.
Yeah, but I mean, demons
minus-
always have a 5-up invul.
Yeah, the minus
they
one
always
doesn't
that's like totally irrelevant. Like that's
Well,
like
but-
the perfect model.
But the great unclean one and the bird don't. They're the big problem.
Well, no, what it sounds like the plague bearers are the problem because they're
Yeah.
holding the objective and
Yeah.
he's getting ahead on points.
Well, there's so many that it's hard for me to kill, even with the Conqueror Doctrine, to give them +2 to hit, and so they tase on 4s. It's still tough to kill a whole unit of the Plague Bearers, even with 6
But
dragoons.
you don't need to kill them in one turn. They're not going to kill them back,
Well, no, but the problem is then you just walk over there with your 2 Psychers and just
which I did anyway.
Psycher the shit out of the.
I had
Yeah.
more, I had basically what happened was he got stuck back there with his dragoons and his priests, and I had 2 demon princes, a herald, the great unclean one. Like I was just throwing smites at him, and
And my army also doesn't deal well with psychic abilities. There's nothing I can do.
I think the biggest thing you could have done different was deploy your priest opposite of my, because I deployed first.
Yeah.
Your priest should have been on the other side of the board because my skull cannons were already down. You put them right in front of them.
Well, I didn't want to run them straight at the bird and the great and clean one. I thought that was also less clutch because the bird just walks, smites the thing that it, because like the last thing I want you to shoot or have to attack the electro priest. I don't want you to just be able to smite them off the board. Like sure they get a 5-up feel no pain, but it negates the whole point of getting them a 3-up invulnerable or whatever. If you're just like, well, they just take 6 wounds and then I just lose 60% of the squad to nothing, So it's like, well, I'd rather them get shot at than deal with the 2 psychers over there that are just going to obliterate them off the board and not give me saves.
I
Yeah.
only brought 3 guns, and you put your 2 transports right in front of them.
Well, but I get the scout move 9 inches. But my plan was to get in there, there was a squad of Nurglings, kill the Nurglings, to get like my invulnerable save, and then hopefully get into the cannons. Like the plan was to get into the cannons and try to get around the side, and just try to avoid the bird and the.
Yeah, it's just hard because the bird has what 14 inches of movement or 12, and
12.
demons all have 12.
Demon Princes do,
Yeah. Well, the demon princes aren't as big a problem. Like the electro priest can tangle with a demon prince.
Yeah.
They really can't tangle with the bird or the greater clean. They just.
I think the focus maybe just should have been more on because his HQs are all just bad to shoot at for you. Like they're awful.
Yeah.
So I think a goal should just be take the bad shooting, clear the plague bearers, and then just make him bring shit to you into line of sight of your tanks next time. Maybe try because it's a bad matchup.
Well, the issue
for sure.
The issue was I just felt like I can't. Like I literally shot everything I could at Nurglings and can't kill Nurglings.
Yeah.
So like,
no, I get that. It feels bad, but at least plague bearers you're getting because I know
it's like I blew up
army,
one skull cannon on the first turn, and then no, I didn't even kill it. I damaged, but I did damage to the bird and the great clean because that was basically the best things I could shoot my things with punch at. You know, like I got this big laser.
Yeah.
Like the laser and Nurglings does it.
I could see lasering skull cannons for sure. I mean that seems fine. Take away is only ranged firepower.
Once the Dragoons got in combat, they weren't even that effective because they don't have the heavy rule. So they hit on fours when you move them, and there wasn't much to see. Like I could see the Dragoons, but they were in combat, so I couldn't shoot them.
Yeah.
It was more effective for me to leave my stuff in combat than fall back and try and. Because basically he was smacking.
Well, I know the Dragoons can delete some serious stuff when you dump a bunch of CP into all their strategies.
It's one CP.
I believe the big thing that happened was the Demon Prince lived with like one loon left after he went in and killed 2 Dragoons.
So on the flip side, Troy, was there something you gleaned from that game that was like either this model's good, this is bad, this was a...
I will say one other thing. He's got a very good ability on the Great and Clean one.
I think we read that wrong. Me and Zach talked about it later. It is still good. But I don't, like... I made the Exalted, my Great and Clean one, my bird. I made him Exalted because it's really cool and it's new. And I rolled the abilities, so I did 2. So I got to subtract 1 leadership. And normally, if I was going to try and play competitive or, try and win something specifically, I would have picked the abilities I gave him. Because it's just
It's just better.
Because some of them are really bad. Like one I got for the Great and Clean one was subtract 1 leadership.
Don't you get a roll 2 or pick 1 though?
Yeah, pick 1 or roll 2.
Yeah.
He rolled 2 just because.
Why not?
We're playing. Let's try it out.
So that's one thing I would do different. I do like the ability. I think it's definitely worth a command point, especially if you're going to have 12.
But he got an ability that he chooses any model, any unit, or it's any model visible to the Great and Clean one.
Yeah.
No range. No limit on range.
I see. That's where it's worded weird. It says you choose a visible model, and then every model up to 7 within 12 inches, and
in that unit.
It doesn't. It says within range of that model, but I think it's supposed to mean the Great and Clean one. I think it's supposed to be within 12 inches of the Great and Clean one. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I think it's just worded really weird.
Yeah. That makes. I mean, we just.
But you roll it on a 4 to take
a. Yeah, 4-ups they take mortal wounds. So he was just like.
But for the most part, you were within 12 inches anyway.
Yeah, but he's like that unit over there. And it's just during the shooting phase. You just get to be like, that one right there.
Yeah.
4 mortal wounds. You're like, oh well, all right.
I've played against Anvil's priest list. Bring the priest and the dragoons up multiple times. And I've kind of learned how to. So I left my Nurglings all 3 squads instead of trying to hold objective. I just left them all up front. I knew he was going to go for trying to get his 3 of them vulnerable. Like he always does. He wants it quick. So you can kind of get him to go where you want.
Yeah.
Like I said, he deployed right in front of my skull cannons, which I hadn't used, and I liked them. They're really good.
I actually did not want to. My plan was to hopefully just get to the skull cannons.
Yeah.
I didn't actually. I was just going to go right past him, but Troy blew him out of the.
Yeah,
and I lost. I hadn't read all the new stratagems, and there is a new stratagem at Adbeck for 0 CP that the Dune Riders, you ignore the people can get out of the explosion safe.
Yeah, everybody gets out safe, basically.
Wow.
So I lost 3 in one of them.
And you didn't have to.
And I didn't have to.
Okay.
Because they blew up on separate turns.
Yeah.
They also played with extremely dense terrain.
The terrain was a little dense.
So that's favorable.
That's favorable to a melee army.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I had plenty of melee. I just
I
couldn't
actually
get it
didn't
where I
melee
needed
that
it.
much. I think he did more than melee. I didn't. The bird's the only one that even made it on his half of the table. Just because I did take the ITC where you try and get a character to do a bunch of different things. I think it's like Born for Greatness or the Hero of Destiny or something like that.
Yeah.
I took it on the bird because it doesn't limit it for some reason, and yeah, he was doing work, and that's a strong way to get 4 points. I like that ability.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being good.
I guess, I have to fight over the center objective.
Yeah, I think that.
But it's just hard for me to deal with all those plague bears because he gets them back.
Yeah.
Not every turn, but every couple turns.
He only has a 15% chance to get him back. So.
But I'm just saying, every couple turns, there's going to be more coming back, and you don't kill that many to start with because they're -1 to hit and shooting. And if I fight them, I want to kill some, but not.
So how many attacks do Dragoons get?
3 each.
3 each.
He runs a squad 6.
6.
So you get 18 attacks there. And can they fight again?
No.
But when they hit on 6s, they get extra attacks.
Is that extra attacks or mortal wounds?
Extra hits.
Extra hits. Okay.
So,
what's the strength of their tasers?
8.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So you're wounding on 2s.
Yes.
Okay.
-1, 2 damage each.
Yeah. So you're going to kill a plague bear.
Yeah, plague bear are not likely to survive.
Yeah.
Hit from a.
I think the play versus him is it's bad, but if he doesn't have troops, sure he's going to go around and do some annoying shit, but you can stay out of range of his Great Unclean One. That thing is a turd.
Well, the issue is there was no way to avoid it because the fight's going to be over the middle objective. So, and there's plague bears and
nerdlings.
nerdlings.
To be over the middle objective. The dense terrain made it so you had to.
Well, I'm saying
the super choke point.
The game we
could have
played.
mortared one of the other points and knocked him off of it and made him draw himself back.
I had one point that was only held by Brimstone Horse. It would have been easy to knock me off that one.
That's what I used to do when I played.
Well, the issue was I had to push those tanks so far forward to reach the back corner because they have 36. You got to roll forward, but then the bird was we were all fighting over here.
Yeah.
The bird was unmolested. He rolled forward and just.
Maybe you should be playing drills instead of boats.
I did get a lot more on my bloodletters.
Drills are much more expensive.
I played a squad of 12 and they killed.
Would have got you on the back.
Also,
2 of the mortar tanks.
The drill, you can get the guys out and make a charge that's shorter than 9 inches with the boat. The drill's always a 9-inch charge. That's why it sucks.
Yeah. I always think every time I've played a game and lost or won, there's some shit I did wrong.
There's definitely things I could have done
percentage giveaways.
Sure.
But I feel like just the way it was laid out, it was going to be a fight over the center of the table for the bonus points because otherwise Troy just racks up the bonus every turn, and I'm just always a point behind.
Yeah, I think
even if we score everything else the same, Troy's getting 1 extra point a turn.
Yeah, I definitely think the way would be next time is just try to focus on clear the plague bears no matter the cost because you have to, and then go around with whatever dookie you got left and just pick off nurglings and just be like, are you gonna put an HQ on this point or let me have it? And then if he's like the Great Unclean One, you can literally just avoid. So if he starts waddling to the middle, go to his back corner because it's gonna take him 2 more turns. I played a Great Unclean One, and I'd never gotten into combat for 3 games. It's
not that he was even in combat. It's just that he gets to smite my stuff, and I can't.
Yeah, I understand the smite, but
gateway, or do you have gateway?
No.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm sure, no matter, it sounds like statistically you were at a loss, but you probably could have reduced that margin of points.
But
difference.
it just, I got jammed up. The Electro Priest just got smited to death as they tried to wade into
smite's bad for a high expense infantry army like that.
And even with the 5-up Feel No Pain, I couldn't slog through the little choke point of all, there were skull cannons there was plague bears, there's nurglings, there was the Bile Piper was there, and there was multiple. What was the other guy? There was the chariot thing.
Herald is nice on a chariot,
Yeah, so he got there was just multiple psychics there. Shooting, melee, and just it was a big slog there, and then the psychic abilities just withered me down because that doesn't care about you can still smite them even if they're in combat. I can protect them from shooting, but I can't. There's nothing I can do to really protect them from the psychic abilities. So, I don't know. Maybe I just try to go after his.
I think you need to be more mobile with the rest of your army. You left a lot back just because it hits better when you don't move, or it has the rerolls. But my army doesn't shoot, so you don't have to worry about me shooting something that's out. Like your Doom Crawlers didn't move, but it's counterintuitive normally. But I can't really challenge them outside of like the bird. So you can move them wherever they want and not have to worry too much about them.
I do think we should start playing games on the smaller board size because we already know that's confirmed.
Yeah.
So I think like I would like to try to get in on this week's game for sure.
For sure.
And I want to test on the smaller board size. I don't really care who I play. I'm probably going to get wrecked, but I would like to try the smaller board size to see how that feels, and work on that and talk about that next week. What I want to ask everybody out there is hit me up on Twitter. It's LLBR1NXLL. Ask me some questions for next week that you want to know either about us, about our games, about our play style, or something you want us to discuss. I would really appreciate that. Just shoot it on there. We're getting the website set up. I'm going to set up a Patreon, and there will be no like funding amounts. You can just get on there to talk for now because it's just an easy place to consolidate people. And I want to go ahead and plug everybody's social medias, so I'm going to do mine first. So Twitter is LLBR1NXLL. Twitch, if you want to talk to me on Twitch, I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sundays. And now I'm going to be doing 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I kind of do an all-day stream on Sundays. And on Twitter, you can always hit me up on Twitter. Those are kind of my main two pages. So talk to me there. What about you, Anvil?
You can find me on Twitter at EvilBeard.
There you go. And hopefully you know how to spell Evilbeard. Troy?
My Twitter is at Viking_hardon.
Nice. So that goes back to a story back in the day. We used to play quarters, and if you sunk all 3 quarters in the ice cube tray, you got the Viking helmet. And Troy always had it, and he kind of looks like a Viking. So that was just a sweet name that never got changed. Chad's been here quietly because he's not good enough at Warhammer to talk yet. But you want to plug your socials?
Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all at Chad B. McKenzie.
There you go. And Zach doesn't do the social medias, so
Nope.
you can talk to him through us. I'm sure if we get this up and running, he'll join a Discord or do something. He'll stop being an old guy. But I appreciate everybody coming out here and listening to it. We've got a lot more stuff to talk about. I'm excited for the 9th edition rules. I think next week I want to do some theory list crafting just to see roughly what we're going to do with each of our respective armies. And we've also been talking about our favorite 3 improved models and our favorite or our least favorite, models with the theoretical changes to 9th edition. So if there's a slow week of 9th edition releases, next week we're probably going to discuss that. So if you got anything on that, same thing, hit us up on the Twitter and just let us know, what models do you think is going to be better and why, and we'll talk about it. And I'll talk to you about it on Twitter all day. So, just feel free to at any of us, talk to us on there, let us know what you're thinking, let us know what you think of the show, and we'll see you guys next time.